Hello everyone, Chimi here, back with another Studio Series Transformers review. Now on this occasion we're going to review Studio Series number 4 Deluxe Class Ratchet. Ratchet is one of the original 5 Autobots from the beginning of the Michael Bay movies, and he's definitely one of my favorites. He was a really cool character, and I know that actually my mom really liked Ratchet as well. He's a very popular Autobot, and definitely didn't deserve his tragic end.
There is one way you survive. Tell me where he's hiding. Where is Optimus Prime? Never. Never is here.
But anyway, getting into the actual review of the figure, here we have Ratchet. And before we look at the figure, let's look at the box first. So here we have our box for Studio Series number 4 Autobot Ratchet. And here we have a picture of Ratchet with his saw blades. Turn to the right, we see the same image once again. On the back, we see the actual product, and we see that he turns into an ambulance. Now I don't see any official licensing for this vehicle mode, so I'm not sure if it's official license. I know that there's no Hummer logos anywhere on the actual toy itself, which I find interesting because a lot of these vehicles are actually licensed. Ignore this plus 100, they wrote that on the box at the store. And then here on the side we have Ratchet once again, and we see here number 4. So this is part of the very first wave of Studio Series. Alright, let's look at the cardboard that comes inside the box. So over here we have a little diorama of the Mission City battle. And Mission City, first of all, I always thought was kind of a strange name. But, you know, it was where the final mission took place, and I thought that was kind of interesting. As a child, I never knew if that was actually the real name or not. I just figured, hey, it's Final Mission, Mission City. So, here we have that image. Now, to be honest, with all the explosions going around, it kind of reminds me more of the Battle of Chicago than it does Mission City. But they say it's Mission City, and who am I to doubt them? Here we see the jets up top, where we saw Starscream as well, and I believe this same image comes with Studio Series Starscream, who is also on its way, but has not actually arrived yet. So I will be reviewing that at some point, but I just don't have it in hand yet. So, pretty nice diorama. Like I said, it's nice to have these, even though I don't really use them that much. It's just nice to have the option. It's nice to have the option to be able to display if I so choose, or if I have the space in the future. Alright, so let's get into the actual figure itself. So, here we have Studio Series Ratchet in his vehicle mode, and I have to say I am quite a fan of this. The very bright green is actually quite nice, and I do like these decals on the side. As you can see here, that says Search and Rescue Fire Department with an Autobot logo. Fire Department, Search and Rescue again. Back here we have some painted windows, very nice blue. On this side we have the same decals. Now these windows on the front are not painted, these are transparent. Now I don't know if you can really tell, but the color of the door here is not exactly the same as the rest of the plastic. So if you look here, this is transparent plastic that has been painted to look like the other plastic, and I don't think it matches perfectly, but I think it's close enough that you don't really notice. If I look at it from this distance, for example, I don't see it. I have to look at it really closely, really carefully to really notice that there's a difference in the color. Now I would compare this to another movie Ratchet figure, however I don't have any. I sold them because I wanted to get this figure. So I don't have any movie Ratchet figures to compare this to. Whoa, that's squeaky as heck. Wow, okay. Well, keep that in mind. It's very squeaky. Wasn't squeaking yesterday. But It's a little Squeakmobile now. So let's compare this squeaky toy with another Ratchet, which is also squeaky. Huh. And this is the Transformers Prime Robots in Disguise, Ratchet. So there we have our Ratchet comparison. Here we see the sides, the backs, side again, the front. And I would say that they're pretty much the same size. Wheelbase is actually pretty much exactly the same length. The width is exactly the same. Length of the vehicle is pretty much the same. So they are definitely in scale. Totally different lines, of course, and your Prime figures aren't probably going to go together with your movie figures. But hey, both of these Ratchet figures are basically the same size in vehicle mode, so that's pretty cool. Now comparing, that's squeaky. Comparing this Ratchet with another deluxe, here we have, just dropping them in, Generation Scoop, and as you can see, Scoop is a lot wider, a little bit longer, and you can kind of see the differences in dimensions there. So this is a fairly standard, I would say, Generations figure, maybe a little bit wider in vehicle mode than some Generations figures, but that's more or less how they would compare in scale. So, man, everything is squeaky today. Now that we are done with the comparisons, let's get into the transformation of Ratchet. Now, I used to have Dark of the Moon Deluxe Ratchet, and the transformation on this guy is very similar. When I saw this figure being announced, I thought it was just a Dark of the Moon repaint. Now, there are some slight differences, but generally it's pretty much the same. Oh, and I also almost forgot to mention, you can kind of see the hands here on the side, which is unfortunate, but it's not the biggest deal in the world, so just having you know that. Keep that in mind. So let's get this into transformation. First thing we're going to do, or first thing that I do, is I pull these parts off. There's a hinge right here. I like to pull at the hinge so I can just pop all that out. So pull at the hinge and pull that out. Now this next part, we're going to take this back panel and we're going to lift up. We're going to pull this down slightly. These side pieces, these side panels, we're going to flip out and fold out. Flip them out, fold them down. And then take the feet and just pull them down. We're going to rotate the feet. And then the next part we're going to do here is fold this up and then fold. You're going to want to untab this first. And fold all this in again. So there we have the bottom half done. Now the next part, you're going to want to hold this front piece while you rotate like so, and then collapse this down until it pegs into place. Rotate the head. Now when you transform it, you don't have to rotate the head. However, I do that because if you don't rotate the head in vehicle mode, it just looks like he's looking from below the car. So it's kind of strange. So I prefer to rotate the head there. We're going to bring down the arms and fold that out first. Bring down the arms, straighten them out. And then this part, when it's in vehicle mode, this hinge is like this. So you're going to want to move this hinge until this peg is pointing forward. And then this part we're going to rotate, and this peg, or this tab slot, we're going to put on this peg like so. We're going to do the same on the other side. Bring this down, make sure the tab is pointing forward, rotate, and tab it into place, if it will. Yes, there we go. And there we have Ratchet in robot mode. So, Ratchet in robot mode, I think, is a fantastic figure. It's very similar to the Dark of the Moon figure, and that's a good thing. I really like that Dark of the Moon Deluxe. This is a really well detailed figure. It's a very well articulated figure. I think that there's probably a need for a little bit more paint. Oh, I forgot. Pop this part down. Don't forget that. I think that, like I said, there could be a little bit more paint on this figure. However, I don't really think that's too big of an issue. One place where I think the lack of paint is noticeable is definitely here in the head sculpt. You see he has very minimal paint on the face, just a little bit of silver on the mouth, and then the blue for the eyes. And I think that that is a place where they definitely could have put more paint on the figure. But overall, I think that it's not that big of an issue. Now, going into articulation, the head here is on a swivel like you saw, you can use for transformation. There is a ball joint here in this section. I don't know if you can really see that. That can move back slightly, and of course can do a full 360. This hinge, I suppose you could count as articulation to move the arm in. There is a swivel at the upper arm, a bend at the upper arm, and then another bend at the elbow. So if you see here, there's a bend at the upper arm and another bend at the elbow. So you can get a large range of motion there. Hands are not articulated, they do not move. No waist articulation. There's a ball joint at the hips, which allows for him to kick out that much, kick forward this much. The kick back, not that much because of the backpack. There is a rotation here at the thigh. There's a bend, of course, more than 90 degrees because of the transformation. And then for the feet are on a ball joint, and there's also a hinge here so that it can move back if you want. So there's a fair amount of articulation on this figure, and a lot of that articulation carries over, like I said, from that Dark of the Moon Deluxe. It really was a great figure. So, what do we have for accessories? Well, he comes with one accessory, which is his saw blade. And as you can see here, it's nicely painted. You can tell a lot of the paint went into this saw blade. I think they could have used a little bit more paint for his face, like I said, but still, the saw blade looks quite nice. And one thing that I did forget to mention is that in vehicle mode, so let me show you this, there is a peg on the spare wheel. You can peg in the saw blade in vehicle mode if you want for storage. But in robot mode, just like in the movie, you have these peg holes on either side. You can plug it in, and he can use that saw blade just like he did in the first movie, the Mission City Battle, to cut off Broll's arm. So that's a pretty cool accessory. Of course, it doesn't really spin. It's just a static piece there. If you really wanted, you kind of force it. It is just a peg in a peg hole, so you can rotate it, but it doesn't freely spin. Now, let's do some comparisons. So, the first comparison we're going to do here is with another Ratchet figure, like I showed before, Transformers Prime Ratchet. And as you can see here, there is quite a difference in scale. The Prime Ratchet, I would say, is actually a little bit small for a Prime Deluxe. As you can see here, the Studio Series Ratchet is just about a head taller than the Prime Ratchet. You can see there, slight difference in height. I would say that they both look pretty nice together. Of course, Ratchet here not having the G1 colors. Pretty cool Ratchets overall. Of course, very different in style, but they're both really nice. I really like this Studio Series figure. And it does look quite different from the more traditional style Ratchet. Bringing in here our second comparison, we have Generation Scoop. Wow, he really cannot stand today. So you can see there how he scales with a fairly standard Generation size Deluxe. He's also slightly taller than Scoop. And yeah, I mean, Ratchet's a pretty decently sized figure. It's one of the bigger deluxe class figures that I've seen in Studio Series. Of course, I don't have them all, but he's a fairly big figure, and definitely more in scale with the Dark of the Moon figures, right? It's more like that kind of style. And of course, this is very similar to the Dark of the Moon figure. I think it has a good scale with Studio Series, not having to be a Voyager, but instead just being a slightly bigger deluxe. So, do I think you should buy Studio Series number 4 Deluxe Class Ratchet? Well, there's a couple conditions there. Now, I really do love this figure, don't get me wrong. However, if you have the Dark of the Moon figure already, I don't really think you need a replacement of that figure. That figure is a perfectly fine Ratchet. I sold that figure many years ago, and then I just never got another movie Ratchet, and so I thought I'd pick this one up. But if you already have the Dark of the Moon one, I don't really think it's that necessary. If you want a more movie one style deco, then that might be your go-to. However, you also need to take in mind the accessories. There is a Dark of the Moon repaint of this. I believe it is Studio Series number 16. And instead of coming with the saw blade, it comes with his gun. And that one has more of a paint scheme like the one that he had in Dark of the Moon. So, if you really like the movie 1 and movie 2 style Ratchet with the very bright lime green and red accents, then this one is the one to go for. If you really like the maybe a little bit darker green with silver kind of paint, then you might want to go for the Dark of the Moon one, which I don't have here to show for a comparison. But I would say if you don't have a Dark of the Moon figure, or if you don't have that other Studio Series Ratchet, and you really want a good Ratchet figure, then this is the one to go for sure. It's a fantastic figure, has great articulation, and it'll probably cost you the same as just getting the Dark of the Moon, the original Dark of the Moon Ratchet on eBay. So I would say that you should go for this figure if you don't have that Ratchet. Alright, well that will be all, everyone, for today. Thank you for watching this review, and I'll see you next time on the Atomic Chimichanga channel.